Start this morning's meeting. We do have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This is our morning to close out our committee's work. We will not be taking any testimony this morning. We'll just be presenting our recommendations and voting them out of committee. Before I forget, I want to take a few moments to thank the staff who have been helping us with this committee and making sure it runs smoothly. First off, our staff in Senate Press, under the guidance of Evan Bergwall, we have Zach Pishak, who is with us this morning. Thank you for everything you have done, as well as Jackson Fuentes, who particularly has helped with our communication. We also have the Senate Office of Policy and Legislative Analysis, and the attorney from that office that did the bulk of the work was Mary Atkins, with the assistance of the director, Haley Williams, who is with us this morning. And then Legislative Counsel, we've had Ben Huntington, and Michael Walker has also showed his face a few times and is interested in this topic. And then we have my staff, who unfortunately, Kathleen Dorking is my administrative assistant, and she's not with us today because she is sick and didn't want to spread her germs, and I told her to stay home. And then my co-chair, Senator Still, has staff that has been helping as well, if you'd like to mention them. Yep.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for being here. So many faces that have been with us since our very first hearing. Thank you all for sticking out with us. Thank you for being part of this journey. And we are very optimistic that we're going to have some great legislation to protect our kids in the state and make it a model program that other states can hopefully follow, and Georgia lead on this. My staff, the amazing Riley Spencer, and as of a couple of weeks ago, I have her other half, Mr. Will Spencer, sitting directly behind me. And of course, I'd be remiss not to mention Scott Jackson, who is probably watching from home and will be texting me some grief later on for something that I missed. But OPLA, Ledge Council, Senate Press, thank y'all so much. And this has been a great journey. So thank y'all for being here. Gesundheit.
Thank you. So we started off this committee talking about how we've had this major shift for our young people, going from what has traditionally been a play-based childhood to, sadly, a phone-based childhood, with the average amount of time that children are spending on their phone per day is 5 hours, which is displacing other activities. So instead of our kids being free to explore the world through hands-on learning, feeling free enough to make mistakes and then correct those mistakes, take risks, our kids instead are online constantly in this defensive state where they're trying to protect themselves from all of the things that are on there that make them, nervous and anxious. And so this comes at a great personal cost for what's now a whole generation of kids who have grown up more digitally connected, but are now telling us they're actually more lonely, with higher rates of anxiety and depression, way higher than generations before. And so we're at a critical point where we can either turn this around, or honestly, it's getting ready to get worse with the introduction of AI, and particularly with AI companion chatbots. So we've arranged our recommendations into different topics. It's 5 or 6 different topics. And I'd like to start with what we're recommending for education, because our kids spend many hours a day in school. And so making changes at the school level can have a big impact on our kids. Last year, we passed the K-8 bell-to-bell cell phone restriction. And the committee heard survey data that said that over 90% of teachers are absolutely thrilled with this law. It actually hasn't been completely implemented, but a lot of school systems have chosen to implement it early. And then the rest will follow suit in the start of the school year in 2026. So we are recommending that bell-to-bell cell phone restriction be extended to high school. In addition, we would like to see the Department of Education make resources available to teachers and school systems on the topic of play-based learning. This is experiential learning where children literally learn through play. It relies on children's natural curiosity, their ability to take risks and problem solve. Those are the skills that our children have lost. And so we would like to see the Department of Education provide resources to local systems about this method of teaching. In addition, we'd like to see the school recess law strengthened. There's been a misunderstanding for years in the legislature where legislators think that PE instruction is recess. And so they make exceptions for hours spent in PE, and they take that away from the recess time. But real recess that benefits kids is unstructured time. And PE, if you remember from your PE classes when you were growing up, it's very, very structured, and it's usually a class you didn't like very much. And that's because you were forced to do things that you didn't want to do. That's not what recess is, and we'd like to see that fixed. In addition, we'd like to establish programs that empower parents with information about digital products, and to encourage solidarity amongst parents to help them resist the pressures and successfully delay their children's launch into the online world and social media use. We would like to fund and require digital literacy education in schools to encourage students to become critical social media consumers. And then in the school system on the AI level, we would like to preserve existing core competencies by restricting educator and student use of artificial intelligence to administrative tasks only. We would also like to require local boards of education to submit artificial intelligence acceptable use policies to the Georgia Department of Education for approval on an annual basis. Moving on to the next area of recommendations is parental control. We heard from parents over and over again that they felt frustrated, that they couldn't control their kids' online activities. They couldn't even really see what the kids were doing. They try to use the parent controls that are available, but they're hard to use, they're hard to find, and the kids get around them. So for that reason, we would like to move forward with what's been called the App Store Accountability Act. The challenge also with this area is age verification. We didn't want age verification to be a major nuisance for the entire population. We didn't want the entire population to feel like they had to turn in ID cards or scan their faces or provide this data to these tech companies that, quite frankly, many of us have lost trust in. The App Store Accountability Act gets around that by linking a child's phone with a parent's phone or a guardian's phone, so that when the phone is purchased, none of the apps are functional. If a child tries to open an app, a notification goes to the parent, and the child cannot have access to that app until the parent approves it. So that is a much simpler process than trying to get into all of the parental controls. And we think that that will give a sense of agency back to parents over raising their own children. It also balances the obligations between the App Store responsibilities and the developer obligations. Moving on to social media and gaming. These, I'm going to call them products. They don't have to be the way they are. they have been designed with profit only in mind. The designers of these products learned that the longer they kept the user engaged, the more their profit went up. And so they designed the products on purpose to be addictive, which is why kids are on them and adults are on these phones so many hours per day. And it's really not, I mean, there is a role for parents for sure. And we're not going to solve all the problems today with legislation. There's still a role for parents to be very involved and very aware, but they're fighting a losing battle because the products these children are using are so incredibly addictive that if you try to intervene as a parent, it causes all kinds of issues between the child-parent relationship that can get quite painful. I know that personally, and I know that my fellow members have experienced that as well. So we wanted to approach social media and gaming from two perspectives. One is privacy and one is design. So what we are recommending for privacy is that is to configure all privacy settings for minor users to the highest level of privacy offered by default. So when your kid posts, it's automatically set to private. You don't have to do anything to make that happen. You do have to do something if you don't want it to be private. And we think that will be huge in terms of protecting our kids. Also, we recommend prohibiting the use of a minor's personal information in a manner that is detrimental to the general well-being of the child. We are recommending to prohibit the collection, selling, sharing, and retaining of a minor's personal information beyond what is absolutely necessary. We're recommending to prohibit using a minor's personal information beyond the purposes for which it was originally collected, and limiting the collection of a minor's geolocation information. And finally, to require the removal of minor data from existing training sets. That's actually AI. In terms of the design of the social media and the gaming, we want to mandate transparency by requiring the clear disclosure of data practices, algorithmic systems, and features that utilize the data of minor users. We want to prohibit the design features that encourage compulsive use or expose minor users to harm, including addictive algorithmic feeds, infinite scroll, and addictive gaming features, just to list a few. The main one being that algorithm is very, very important. We want to establish age verification methods that prioritize user privacy and accessibility and require these methods to remain up to date. And we want to classify all violations of these provisions as unfair or deceptive practices under the Georgia Fair Business Practices Act. The most upsetting meeting that we had, in my opinion, and I think the members would agree, is the meeting we had on AI about companion chatbots. These are new. They're being rolled out fast. They're just like direct messaging was rolled out 10 years ago to be part of every social media product. You're going to start seeing, and probably have already seen, chatbots as part of existing social media products. These things are not predictable. We don't always know where they're going to go. So the first thing we recommend is that we come up with clear definitions. We actually need a clear definition of artificial intelligence systems, which we had several bills about last year. And we would like Georgia to go forward with clearly defining what artificial intelligence systems are and a clear definition of what a companion chatbot is. We would like to classify companion chatbots as products subject to consumer protection laws. This is like, think cars. A car manufacturing business doesn't roll out a new model until they've thoroughly tested the product. That's what we think should happen with these companion chatbots. they shouldn't be put in front of our children until they have been thoroughly tested. We want to require artificial intelligence developers to curate and vet data used to train large language models. We want to prohibit artificial intelligence developers and deployers from utilizing the same engagement-based and addicting optimizing design features that we've seen social media companies use. And finally, we want to prohibit AI deployers from making artificial intelligence systems available that provide services which would otherwise constitute the practice of professional mental or behavioral health care if provided by a person. And this is because we heard testimony that some of the chatbots were actually presenting themselves as licensed psychotherapists. Our final category is digital ownership. We are now living in an age where somebody could decide to make a chatbot that is me or Senator Still, or put us in videos, or any of you sitting there, videos that you know are not comfortable with. So our final recommendation is that we recognize a right against digital replication in statute to expand protections for a person's likeness and provide a method to address the dignity-based harms, your reputation, not currently covered by Georgia's identity fraud, forgery, or impersonation, and unfair and deceptive business practice laws. We would like to add that to the statute. And those are, in a nutshell, our recommendations. So if the committee is ready, I'd like to entertain a motion
To adopt the report as written.
to adopt the report as written.
Make the well, you made the motion. Second,
Second.
Shay.
Okay, so we have a motion put forward by Senator, was it Harbin? To adopt the report as written, and a second from Senator Rahman. Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The report passes. Very good. I would like to give everybody the opportunity to say something, but I would like to say that it has been an absolute pleasure, particularly after that vote, to work with my fellow committee members. I wrote the resolution for this committee to be bipartisan by having co-chairs, one from the majority party and one from the minority party. I do believe the public needs to see that in these politically divisive times that we can put our differences aside. And we do have differences, don't we? Yes, we do. We do have differences. But for the sake of this topic and our kids, this committee has successfully put those issues aside and worked together, and that has been just, it's just really been moving to me, and I think it's moving to the public too. I heard a poll that like 2/3 of the people polled, their main concern in politics was that we would never be able to get over our divisiveness and our differences. And I think this committee has shown that we can. And so I think that gives the public hope. So I just wanted to thank every one of you for that. So I'd like to open the floor to any of you who'd like to make statements. My co-chair?
I already said what I need to say.
You're
Thank you for a phenomenal job of chairing and bringing the information that we've had together. And I think, you know, if I look at anything as this, is that as I talk to parents about the issues and what they're dealing with, is the parents really don't have power or knowledge to deal with the issues that are here. And in this case, we're dealing with things that I hate to say, sometimes their children are more technologically advanced than their parents. I had a parent the other day say, I had to bribe my child to change my cell phone so it would do what I wanted it to do. He says it went off in church and I was trying to turn it off and I couldn't get it off. But I think this is that we need to give power to our parents. We need to have accountability. You know, I work in the business world, and we have, you know, if you want to get into something, we have multi-factor identification. We have all kind of technology that can be done if they want to do it. But when they're doing it to gain revenues, that's a different story. But it's revenues without responsibility. And I think that's the issue. We cannot have them have revenues without responsibility for the issues that are here. And I have 13 grandkids. So we are, as a family, talking about that. And I think that's the other part, is that you need to have a conversation with your family. You need to sit down and say this, because many times that it's just it's new news to people that that's an issue. And as we've heard testimonies given of young people taking their lives, we have to realize that those issues of technology make everything happen faster than we've ever believed it could happen. And I mean, before you leave a room, information can be out. And I think especially within our high schools, I had one parents talking about just the bullying that had gone on with their daughter and the problems that they had had. So I think we need to make them responsible for what they're putting out there, just like we do a safety product for our car or anything else. But we've also got to do this. We've got to give our parents power and to be able to know what's going on. And we can do that if we want to. I think when we see some of the things we passed in the past where we require identification to get into pornography, if you will, that was a good thing as far as that portion. And still 30 to 35% of the revenues of the internet are through pornography. So I think this is an issue that we've dealt with, great reports, things that we've done. I think about the chat issues, chat bots. I have a client who has a bot on his website, and the bot has a name. Her name's Lisa. And he says, I have people walking into my place of business asking for Lisa, says, I want to deal with Lisa. And really, Lisa does not exist. She is a bot. And these are grownups. So I think that tells us the power of what's there and our need to be aware. And I think this is that there needs to be transparency, that we can show what's going on. The parent can know what's going on from that. The technology is there to do it. And I think the other part, the digital ownership issue, is one we're going to have to deal with, because you look at what you see sometime and you say, is this real or not real? And that's an issue that we're going to have to deal with if we're going to continue to operate. Technology is a phenomenal thing, what can be done, but yet it can also be used for evil, if you will. And that's what I'll call it, the word evil, to take care of and to really deal with, especially our children. And that's the issue that I see more than anything else. We have a opportunity to protect the future generations that will lead our state and our nation. And I think this has been a great eye-opener for everybody involved in the process, and especially even for our educators as we become more dependent upon technology to teach rather than people to teach. And I just don't think you can replace that. There's nothing like the human touch that makes a difference when a teacher can teach, and we need that. And this really puts some guide rails, is what it is, on what needs to be done. But thank you, Madam Chairman. Great job, and appreciate you. Thank you.
Senator Setzler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thoughtful, engaged, informed, caring parents who take every precaution and do everything for the interest of their kids feel their children slipping through their fingers with no ability to do anything about it. The best we have among us feel powerless in the face of the conditions that exist today in our culture. To do nothing about that, to turn a blind eye to that, is to be derelict in our duties. Now, there's nobody on this panel who thinks that a legislature can regulate their way to success on all things. That's simply not the premise here. But the recognition that to do nothing in the face of these kinds of conditions is to say, fundamentally, we as a culture, we as a society, we as a state simply don't care. And that the best, most engaged, most caring parents can do nothing to help their kids is just flatly unacceptable. And one of the things that I would leave folks to consider, and I speak as a member of this study committee, and honored to serve as the chair of the Committee on Science and Technology here in the Georgia Senate, is that we're increasingly seeming in our culture to have a hard time as Americans holding two ideas in our head at once. We're hearing, and those that would urge this committee to do nothing, to let the powers of science move fast and break things, as they've sort of lifted up before as an objective, and that we should, as a result, should do nothing. Let them handle this. And there's those that would say, we have there's this existential threat that free democracies in the world have against communist China and these malevolent forces that want to leverage artificial intelligence technology against the free world. We can't act and engage in this way because we're going to just be giving the AI and the technology innovation over to malevolent totalitarian forces. It's just simply not true. The idea of holding two things in your mind at once is something we have to recognize. We have to both recognize that the military technological advances that are being used in this sector to advance power interests, we as a free society can contend in that space and use AI tools and technology tools to contend to prevent totalitarian states from having military power and using this for military power. We can both contend there and also engage in the way these technologies are being used with kids and adults in consumer space. We can engage in a thoughtful way to protect consumers and also win the battle of the future and how this technology is used for military and purposes of geopolitical power. We can do both at the same time. The idea that if we engage and we say, wait a minute, kids being limited in their ability to engage with AI erotica, these fantasies online through consumer products, to say we can't engage to protect kids there because we've got to somehow protect our ability to fight and engage geopolitically in the military space for AI being used for military purposes. It's insane. Both those ideas, we can hold both those ideas in our heads at once. And that's what this committee is doing. We're not in any way seeking to limit our ability and the ability of free nations and societies and democracies from protecting themselves. But we are recognizing that in the consumer space, in ways that consumers and everyday people, kids, and even young adults and adults interact with technology, has to have responsibility. What you heard today from our chair is not a regulatory scheme, but a responsibility scheme. A scheme that those who put these technologies out there have to be responsible for what they do. Really nothing more, nothing less. And that kind of responsibility is that those that create these technologies, that wield the power of using these technologies, will be responsible for what comes about as a result of rolling these things out to hundreds of millions and even billions of people. And that it is, if we recognize that protecting what it means to be human, protecting what it means to empower parents to be able to be parents and do it well, and to kind of protect their kids as we expect parents to do, requires parents to be empowered to do those things with the kind of common sense tools that put responsibility on the hands of those who produce powerful products. While simultaneously we're able to use these technologies in ways that advance freedom and keep totalitarian states from gaining military power. Those are two separate, distinct issues. And we don't need to be laissez-faire to let kids' lives be destroyed by these things under the false premise that that's going to undermine our ability to protect ourselves as free nations. That's the debate we're going to hear this next legislative session. Leave us alone. We got this. States that get engaged are going to create a polyglot of confusion that's going to stifle creativity and put us behind and let China leap ahead in terms of leveraging these technologies. It's simply a false dichotomy. It's a false choice. It's not either or. It is both and I'm thankful for this committee to act thoughtfully. I'm thankful this committee can act in a bipartisan way that recognizes the Georgia Senate cares about the humanity of people. And we're thoughtful about how we pursue that and protect that. That's what I think you're going to see in this report. And I'm hopeful you'll see some actions this session. This report is not a bill. This report is a list of policy priorities, objectives, which all of which won't be in a bill this session, but they are a statement of our findings, stating problems and recognizing that we as the legislature have an obligation to act on some of these things, and act we will. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the chair, both co-chairs, the members of the committee. And remember, we can hold two thoughts in our head at once. We can protect consumers and still not lose the technology race in the coming decades. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Co-Chair, and my colleagues. And I don't think I need to say anything more than all my colleagues that just said, but I would like to thank all the presenters for the last four session that we had, and the people participated, some of the presenters in person and online, also that in attendance, who are here to participate. So I just want to make sure that my colleague just said, this is not the bill. We're going to have a bill coming in. So I know as much as you listen to our, testimonies and everything else, when the bill comes in, I want you to make sure, stay vigilant, look at it, what it is, and guide us through if you have something new come up or whatever you think. And hopefully this is a bipartisan bill, as we said, that we're not restricting. We need to protect our children. We're not against any progress. Technology changed so fast. Whatever is today, tomorrow something new coming. We don't know. It's moving really fast. But the thing is, we make sure we don't want to stop progress, but we want to make sure we protect our children, the next generation, our children, your children, and the children of America. And that's what we're trying to do. And this is a bipartisan way. And we can get it done. We can get it done. And we're going to need your help. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Y'all, I'm going to be really clear about something. This is going to be a bipartisan bill, what comes out of this. And a really simple Google search, and I would encourage all of y'all to do this. Look at what attacks have happened on state legislatures that have tried to do something similar. Just Google what some of these apps and platforms have done to legislators in Texas, Utah, California, who have tried to pass similar legislation of what we are going to be doing here in Georgia. Understand that this will be one of the last times that we're all together unscathed on this journey, because they don't want this to happen. The technology companies don't want this. The platforms don't want this. The manufacturers, the people designing this don't want regulation. So we are leaving this as friends, and we are going to be going into battle with these giant multi-billion, trillion-dollar corporations to protect our children. So for those of you in the media, I ask that you please report fairly on this and hold them accountable too, because they are going to be coming after us with everything they've got, and they've already started. So a lot more to come.
Thank you. Anything else? Stay strong. This meeting is adjourned.
Done.